Awesome. Excuse me. Thank you. I'm glad the videos are of help to you. Much appreciated. The delay is a little weird. At the moment, Dubai makes the most sense, so I'll be here for quite some time. Hello. Right. Current resolution. Cool. Any questions? Anybody? Hello. Is there a musical application for the burner exercise? To be honest, not exactly. It's an exercise really for maintenance, so there's no musical application to it. Excuse me. The state of bass playing with all the exposure on YouTube, it's not just bass playing, I think music itself has entered a realm of pure chops and virtuoso vibes more than actual music, which is not bad, but there's quite a bit of good the internet has brought forward for music, but with an equal amount of bad too. So it's really hard to pinpoint and say what exactly is the current state of affairs, because it's so subjective for many people. So that's my take on it. Hello. I can't pronounce your name. Russia, I love your country, by the way. Hello from Italy, nice. Hello, Carlo. Favorite music album ever? It's hard to say ever, but I think one of my favorite albums of all time is actually the Black Album by Metallica. I'm sure that's not an answer you were expecting, but that is the truth. I love Metallica. One of my favorite albums, and the first album I think of is that album. Who do I watch on YouTube? To be honest, I haven't been watching a lot of bass players on YouTube. I haven't been watching a lot of music videos actually. I've been watching a lot of workout videos as of the last few months, but I probably have to actually sit down and watch some new stuff, check it out. How do you create bass fills? I did a lesson on this before, but the idea is simple: something that makes sense with the music and something that is rhythmically and melodically interesting. That is an answer in a nutshell. Yes, I'm getting a new custom bass. Favorite jazz album? I would have to say Giant Steps is my favorite jazz album. When you improvise, you have to know what it sounds like even before you play it. There is no noodling and hoping for the notes to come out right and to sound okay. It's not a guess game. You have to know what you're doing. Jazz fusion albums, Heavy Weather is great for sure. What's my favorite jazz fusion album? Heavy Weather is definitely one. I love Face First, Tribal Tech. That's about it, I guess. My custom bass is going to be a maple neck, maple fretboard as well. Thoughts on the Katy Perry case? I'm not sure I know what's happening with the Katy Perry case. Hello, Alexander. That's nice. I would love to visit your city someday in the future. My favorite or most overall applicable skill exercise? It would be scales again, but you are playing single notes, and then you do double, triple, then fours, fives, because it really helps condition picking on different sets of strings with different groupings. Then you can do 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. You can just mix and combine all kinds of things. Ooh, take care of yourself. Music related injuries are not fun. Lawsuit on minor. I haven't heard of that. I should probably look into it. Can't seem to break out of playing the same 2-5-1 lines. Then stop playing the lines and just try to play notes, in the sense of just trying to create good space and tension between the notes, regardless of how fast the chords go by. And if you can control that, that will eventually help you play more ideas, because a lot of guys get carried away just playing lines and they learn licks, you know. But then if you actually can't do right, so you need to start with few notes, build it up, but learn to control every note. Do I know Anton? I don't know him personally, but yes, I know David Jans. Do I play in church? I haven't played in church in many years. I wish I had time to play in church, or a church to play at rather. Have I ever played a 6-string? I have here and there in the past, but I haven't played one in years, and I don't think I ever will. It's too much for my wrist. How to practice line? What do you mean by line? Deconstruct Nardis for the next time. Yeah, sure, next week I can deconstruct Nardis. Nardis is interesting. Play some melodic minor ideas over 2-5-1. Okay, I'm going to tackle that plus William's question of can you talk about breathing to playing and making sure to breathe. Now, if I were to take 2-5-1 in the key of G, let's say, A minor, D7. Okay, so I'm going to play pure melodic minor ideas. I'm going to be sure to breathe through the ideas, so I'm not just going to keep running them non-stop. I might, but there is still space involved and breathing involved. Right, so I'm not trying to forcefully breathe with every phrase literally, but just trying to breathe the natural way that you would breathe when you're not playing, and just let it be involuntary. Don't think about it and just play, and just don't overthink it basically. But it is important to breathe, I will say that. How was Mononeon? Mononeon's badass, man. I didn't dig myself deep into him, but yeah, he's great. Stefan, thank you, man. The next album should be out next year. I'm already writing a lot of music, a lot of different material, some very interesting formats too. The reason you say a perfect fifth, because perfect fifth is literally perfect in the sense of consonants. When I play D and A, for example, it's a perfect sound as opposed to or a second. A fifth is very steady, hence perfect. A fourth is steady too. perfect fourth, perfect fifth. Why are notes called natural? It's just because of how notes are labeled. You have 12 notes. So D natural indicates it's just D. A D sharp can also be an E flat, which is what you call your enharmonic equivalent. This is very basic music theory actually. You can just Google it and there's plenty of places where you can read about it a little more. What do you think about playing with pick? I think it's great. I cannot. I personally suck at it because I do play guitar, so I'm not used to the size of the string with the pick, but on the guitar I like it. But on bass it's a little awkward for me, but I think it's great though. How to practice rhythm on bass solo? To be honest, rhythm is something you have to practice in any context, not just bass solos. But if you want to focus on bass solos, I would say just learning to actually chill and not just constantly run ideas. That's very important, and that helps bring more color to your solos too. And subdivisions, just practicing things in 16 notes, triplets, quintuplets if you want to, and trying to mix and match, that helps. Nathaniel, thank you, man. Really appreciate it. What I did discover making the album was that I am able to write music that doesn't revolve around an instrument to make it happen, as opposed to like a band or a set of instruments. So it's like you take away the bass on a track, it's not going to take away the song. Sorry. It's not going to take away the song. So that's what I learned about myself, that I'm able to write like that, and I want to hone in on that and strengthen it, because I like music that is music. It's not instrument focused. It's not like, oh God, that guitar album. No, I like that album. That's my thought process, and it was a great learning process too. Learned what to do, what not to do for the next record. So hopefully the next record will be better in that regard. Practice ideas on connecting chord tones with scales. That's a tricky one to answer briefly, but what I would say is, if you know chord tones, that actually should mean you know scale tones. So if you want to be able to connect to a scale tone from a chord tone, just look at it this way: a C minor 7, okay, with a Dorian tonality. In between each chord tone, there is a scale tone. In between E flat and G, there's F, G and B flat, there's A, and then C, B flat, they're just right there. So you just have the scale tones constantly there, and that actually gives you a triad. Right, and in between C and E flat you have the D. So if you are aware of where the scale tones are with your chord tones, you should be able to connect them. But you have to know one to know the other. You need to know your scales first to know your chord tones. And if you know your chord tones, you're aware of where your scale tones are that surround you. And then the chromatic scale tones come into play the same way. It's very simple stuff, but it just takes a lot of work to get it ingrained into your system. Mark King, yeah, Mark King is badass. In my opinion, for the style of music and what he does, he's great. Connecting your fingers to what you're hearing in your head. Try this. Sit down and actually try to sing. Now, I don't want you to sing like Brian McKnight, but just try to sing and see how well you are able to carry forward your ideas vocally from what's inside your head. Record it, okay? And listen to how much music is actually there. And then you sit down with your instrument and try to do the same thing. Just sing, not full phrases, but just a couple of notes. and try to see if you can actually connect it. A lot of times it's because you are actually not in pure connection with the instrument, you're not able to do it, and that has nothing to do with just melodies but just overall connection, you know. So it's important to constantly vocalize. It helps a lot, but I would vocalize just away from the instrument and then sit with the instrument and see, are my fingers actually following my voice, or is my voice following my fingers? Because there's a huge difference. Do I like John McLaughlin? I do. I like his music, the musicians he's worked with. Him as a guitar player, not particularly a huge fan, but still a great player nonetheless. Any advice on how to get 16-note ghosting smooth? To be able to even ghost properly, you need to be able to subdivide your bass lines in general. So if I take something like, I don't know, learn to subdivide, to be able to displace ideas, notes, and then eventually find ways to throw in the ghost notes. But ghost notes are ghost notes. They are supposed to be present yet absent. So it doesn't mean your ghost notes have to be super loud. You know, that's the thing with ghost notes. They're very elusive. But yeah, practice your subdivisions. It's very important. Is transcribing necessary? It is. I won't say necessary, but it's useful. It helps you with developing ideas, developing direction in your ideas as well. So I won't say you have to abide by it or it's the law. No, transcribing helps. Technically, musically, melody-wise, vocab-wise, it helps a lot. So it's in your hands. If you find yourself stuck, that's because you are actually just playing the transcription as a transcription and not absorbing the language. You need to take those lines and ideas and then analyze them. That's very important, to actually learn from them. Have you ever checked out Daryl Freeman? The name rings a bell. I can't really recall. Try to play Jaco Teen Town with deviations. Where to carry? It's hard. It's very hard. The harmony, they're messing. Do I have a lead sheet? I'm actually cleaning up my lead sheets, my sheets for my music. I can send it across to you, but the harmony overall centers around the Messiaen mode 3. Messiaen mode 3 is basically taking what I did in the song is taking minor shapes and moving them in major thirds. So you have right, and I'm using the sevenths of each shape to get to the next minor. So that kind of thing. So the chords are pretty much working around that for some part of the song. But you know what? Once the lead sheet's out, I'll hit you up and you can just see it for yourself instead of me taking away a lot of time on here, because I can go on and talking about it. What is a normal day for me? I wake up, I freshen up, and I go play some drums. Usually I would sit on the pad, just get my hands warmed up, but then I sit down on the kit and I just start practicing soloing ideas directly, just straight out of bed pretty much. The reason I do that is because it pushes my brain at a very crucial point where you're relaxed, you're not fully awake, neither are you sleepy. So I just do that to get my day started, and then I just go about doing stuff, shed, hit the gym, cook, Netflix sometimes, you know. My recording setup, I'm using a Zoom H5. I'm running it as a USB interface. It's running through a software which is helping me stream this on YouTube. My bass is connected directly, line out, and line out my amp, and then I have a lav mic which is right here into that interface, and that's what you're hearing. How can you use modal interchange? Modal interchange, you can use it to create interest. If you have a song in the key of C, instead of having an F major, you can do F minor, which gives you a nice color. And then because of F minor, I can use a B flat 7 and then go to C major from there. So alright, so that's a very simple example of modal interchange. Take that idea and try to move it around. Listen to certain songs that will actually help you understand it. A lot of songs from Stevie Wonder has modal interchange all over the place, so I would highly recommend Stevie Wonder. A tune like Autumn Leaves, I tend to conceptualize it. The song sounds minor, so it's minor in my opinion. If you want to play out when you're soloing, you got to learn to play in jack. That's very important. Avoid notes. Avoid notes are often used in the wrong context. Avoid notes is what you avoid in harmony. If you play a C major 7 and throw an F in there, you try to avoid having that F because it's going to clash with the E. Right? But if I actually listen to this chord, it doesn't sound bad. Right? But I can change it up. So harmonically, you try to avoid it because it messes with the tonality. Melodically, you can use it like that. You hear that line a lot. So you don't actually avoid that note because, oh, it's wrong. No. But harmony wise, yes, you tend to throw it aside because it doesn't make sense sometimes. Do I have my own rendition of the Beatles? No. And yes, Rocco Prestia is the bomb. Who's my favorite drummer? Vinny Colaiuta, man. Vinny is the bomb. Any 5-year plans? No such plan at the moment. But things come and go, you know, so I'm just keeping an open mind and seeing what happens and where life takes me. No worries. Yes, I do read. I sight read. Well, it depends on how the sheet's written. Sometimes sheets are written with no key signatures, so they act like if you're playing like jazz gigs where I play people's original music, there's no key signatures because there's a lot of accidentals involved. So that's literally real time. You have to you either fumble and learn or you take your time to go through the chart. But usually it's good to have a look at the key signature because that's one of the first things you actually should do before you read a sheet. Can I make a video on hybrid chords and application? I actually can. I am planning to do it because I want to. Harmony is important, but it's also based on demand of what people actually want to learn. So I'm constantly experimenting with that on the channel. I don't want to keep putting up lessons that are already out there, and I don't want to put stuff that is not something bass player friendly at the same time, because primarily I want to focus on bass. So I'll definitely look into it. Are you planning on doing more streams? I plan to do streams on a weekly basis. And will the stream stay on your channel? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out. All gospel bass players, man. Gospel musicians are just so full of life and energy. It's beautiful. Yeah, go ahead, Jack. How did I get into Alan Holdsworth? I got into Alan Holdsworth because I was into Meshuggah, and I saw, what's his name, Frederick Thorndell, is it? The guitar player cited Alan Holdsworth as an influence, and I was like, oh, let me check this guy out. And I was just like, my head just blew up to pieces, and it's still blowing up to pieces every time I listen to Holdsworth. Holdsworth was rather just phenomenal. Jimmy Johnson is great, man. I've been tripping on an Alan Holdsworth album, Secrets, with Jimmy Johnson on bass, Vinny Colaiuta on drums. Beautiful. And Jimmy plays a couple of beautiful solos on there too, and great fills and groove ideas. Sound is phenomenal. Yeah, I'm starting to really dig into that vibe too. A video about groove construction. Yeah, sure. You know what? I might just do a very rudimentary groove construction video lesson. Incorporate the drum kit as well, so you can have an idea of how to work with it. Yannick Top Magma. What's that? Or who is that? Oh yeah, I understand that, Alexander. Yeah, you know what? I'll probably leave the streams on henceforth, so people can just go back and watch. No worries. Do I do economy picking? I do it a lot. What do I think is the best exercise for becoming really precise with rhythm? Not drums, but actually being able to subdivide in your head and singing out subdivisions, 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and then sitting down going 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and that would help a lot from a fundamental point of view. I live in UAE. I live in Dubai in particular, the city. People often think it's a country. It's not. It's a city. Technical practice, well, at the moment, I don't. You reach a certain point where you actually don't have to do technical practice, but you just spend time shedding ideas and playing music and trying to write. So I don't actually sit down on the bass practicing technical facility stuff. On the drums, yes. Guitar, yes. Yeah, I'm not a religious listener of John Mayer, but yes, I have heard his stuff. Beautiful stuff. Favorite way to practice? That's a tricky one. You know what? Actually, on my channel, I have a lesson about developing your own practice routine or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Check it out. I think it'll help you understand stuff. I appreciate you, Mr. Stefan. Wow, I'm slurring. Share some tips for sight reading. It's like what I said earlier. No key signatures. Spend time just reading scales and just getting your eyes aligned with every note versus the neck. Another thing, if I am given a single sheet of music, I like to look through and find the lowest note and the highest note that I have to play that's written. And based on that, I can work out my left hand or fretting hand for where on the neck to be. So those are some things you can do. It doesn't take too long to become a decent sight reader, but to be at a level where you could just pick up a sheet and just go at it, that would take time. But the only way to get better at it is just to do it every day. So if you practice 4 hours a day, I would dedicate maybe 20 minutes to sight reading. Because practically speaking, you don't get to sight read every day, at least in a working situation. In certain contexts, yes, you have to read every day, but 20 minutes a day will do the trick. Do I plan to play in Russia? I don't know about this year, maybe next year. I was there last year. Twice in Moscow and St. Petersburg. I played a bunch of gigs. I want to come back. I would love to come back, maybe even do some workshops or something, but I fell in love with the country. Beautiful place. Would I play fretless? I used to play fretless a lot, man. I would love to play it again. I'll probably get one soon. Probably another Squire. You're coming to Dubai? Nice. Yeah, man. Hit me up and we could probably meet. Sure. At the moment, I use Mark Bass, but I do not like it. I actually started to like Gallion Kruger over the last year, actually. Such a responsive amp, great low end, nice top end, good mids, and just overall great tone. It really suits my vibe too, so I'll be switching over pretty soon. Etienne Mbappe, man, he's cool, he's badass. Actually, those group of bass players who pretty much are African musicians who migrated to Europe are just, the bass players are just, nuts. Great groove, Subdivision, solid time, just wow. Do I dig Steely Dan? I never got heavily into them. but their music sounds pretty nice overall. Stanley Clarke, I like Stanley on Upright. The stuff he used to do with Chick, and still does with Chick, I like that. But besides that, I never got into him a whole lot. I will start using a 5-string when I get my 5-string, which is next month. I mean, this month end. Sagar, thank you. First of all, I'm glad that the lessons work for you. I plan to do a workshop sometime next month, probably end of next month. But I'll keep you posted. I mean, you can find more information on my social media over time. What did I grow up on? I grew up on gospel music, Indian classical music, heavy metal, psychedelic rock, and my sister was listening to a whole lot of what was hip in the 90s, Westlife and all that kind of stuff. So I grew up with a combination of weird stuff, but I lean towards gospel and heavy metal. Heavy metal being the primary thing, actually. So I'm a metalhead. Is melodic minor my favorite scale? It is. I love that scale, man. It's so good. It's so friendly, universal, works in any context. What other scales do I like? To be honest, it's like what I actually spoke to with somebody recently about. I primarily only use 3 scales, or think, compose with. It's melodic minor, major, and diminished. These 3 scales will give you everything you need, in my opinion. Of course, a lot of people disagree with me. It's cool, to each their own, but for me, I don't think there's anything more than this. And people will be like, oh, what about the harmonic minor? That's just one note. So it's like, why do I have to take time to look at it separately just because of one note? Why don't I just look at that note as an option? So now you start to get a weird sound out of this hybrid harmonic melodic minor scale. So yeah, melodic minor, major, diminished. Is there any discrimination on playing electric bass? Believe it or not, I have in the past gotten picked on for playing electric on a jazz gig by people I don't want to name, because they are just extremely reputable musicians in the jazz world. But yeah, there is a slight stigma where, oh, you play jazz, you got to play upright. But I would love to play upright, to be honest, but my wrist is bad. It's getting better, but I don't want to push it by trying to get into upright. So yeah, there is discrimination for sure. Best substitute of the melodic minor. Man, I actually substitute everything else with the melodic minor. So you give me a major scale, I will convert it to a melodic minor. I always do that. So I don't actually substitute melodic minor for anything else. I do the opposite most of the time. Why do your licks sound stale? Well, it's probably because you're treating it as it's like, I don't know, me taking this marker and trying to write a 1,000-word essay. This marker is not meant for that. A pen, on the other hand, works. But what works even more in today's time is to just actually sit at your computer and type it out. So you need to know your goal, and you need to know what tools you need to get to the goal. So if something sounds stale, it's only because the tools at your disposal are very limited or wrong. That's the only explanation I can think of. So evaluate that and then take it from there. Have I studied Messiaen modes? Not extensively. I mentioned earlier in the stream that I used one of the modes as a compositional tool on my album. But I don't know, maybe I might do a lesson on it, a separate video lesson dedicated to it, because it's a very cool concept. I don't study modes. I did a video about this before too. I don't like to think modes when I play. I don't think, oh, Dorian, oh wow, I could go into Phrygian. No, I only think of one parent scale, and using the parent scale, I can create, add on, remove, and do as I please. It's better to think that way for me, and I encourage people to do that. My students who study with me on Skype or in person, take away the whole logic of modes and just have a scale, a parent scale, and then try to throw that everywhere. So it's simpler, and from a practice point of view, it's great. But for an understanding, analytical point of view, modes help to break down certain things. But playing, expression, understanding, keep it simple. That's my game. Melodic minor in the various contexts. Yeah, I might do it in bits and pieces. That is quite a lot of information to share for free. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a sucker for money or anything, but I do like to withhold certain information which I put on the channel because it's vital. You know, I don't want to deny anybody their right to learn, or deny myself saying that, oh, I could just keep doing this and just saturate my moneymaker, which is me teaching as well, you know. So, but I will definitely look into it. Do I find limitation liberating? Very liberating. It's great. It's one of the best ways to get better. I play drums, bass, guitar, maybe more. No, I don't play any other instruments. I can barely play keys. I would like to pick up another instrument, but I think 3 is good. We'll see. How do I build a fills to connect different chord changes? It's just like playing a solo. Actually, you're just trying to make sense. So it takes preparation. You need to practice these kind of things. It's not like you can just get it overnight, but a good place to get started is quarter note fills, and then eighth note fills, and then 16th notes. So yeah, it's a lot of work basically. If I see a G7 flat 9 13, I think of A flat melodic minor actually, or even B, F. I use a lot of weird substitutions too. So yeah, parent scale, just one simple scale. Michael Mandering, I haven't heard Michael Mandering in ages. Damn, I actually almost forgot about him. I'll probably finish this stream and go watch a few of his videos. He's beautiful. I love his music overall is nice. Different guy stands out. Lawrence Cottle, yeah. Wow, you guys are really taking me on a little trip here. That's nice. I like to be reminded of things of the past. You know, it's fun. Right, when you go for a bass fill, it sounds like an exercise and not musical. Chord tones are not just the key. When you practice your scales, chord tones, arpeggios, etc., etc., you need to treat them like exercises, okay? Because you don't practice musicality, you don't practice music, you practice technical facilities, musical facilities, harmony, melody, rhythm, etc. But when you actually sit down to play, you have to throw them all aside. You can't sit down and say, okay, this is 251 coming. Big difference between the two, although I'm using the same material, more or less. Because when you play, you're trying to express, so you got to throw out the mechanical aspect and just focus on actually playing from your heart, as corny as that sounds. Why A flat melodic minor? It's because of the altered scale. G altered is A flat melodic minor. Yes, to improvise, I broke and constantly continue to break a lot of rules, just like many other great improvisers out there who groundbreakers, basically. Coltrane and all these guys, they were breaking rules as much as they had rules themselves. So I think it's important to be a rule breaker in this regard. Billy Sheehan, man, Billy Sheehan is badass. Any tips for developing rhythmic playing versus melodic? That's a tricky one, but I would say they both have different elements, so that is key. Recognition and knowing that they're both separate and different things. I believe there are a couple of lessons on my channel where I talk about rhythmic phrasing and then general melodies for soloing and stuff like that. So to develop it, just isolate the two. Rhythm is rhythm, melody is melody, but then eventually they come together. But rhythm takes the cake, because without rhythm you actually don't have music, if you think about it, because just a groove alone is music, you know. But if you have just notes that have no rhythmic value or rhythmic sense to it, then you're pretty much stuck. Thank you, Mr. Gideon. A little bit like Jeff Berlin. I'll take that as a compliment any day. I love Jeff, man. Jeff is a hero. I think I have a bunch of Ted Green books, but I need to look into it, man. I have to dig up Ted Green because Ted Green is a great resource, just one of the greatest actually. I will definitely look into it. 3 bass players in the world who totally influenced you: Jaco, Hadrian, and Jeff Berlin. If I were to pick 3 guys primarily, these 3 for sure. Maybe more. All right, one more would be Paddy Tucci. 4. In some of my videos on the channel, I do use a neck pickup. I do use it live a lot, especially in a pop, R&B, soul context. I do use it. It inspires different ideas, you know. So yeah, man, walking bass is like a work in progress forever. It's so elusive that way. Chord tones, yes, scale tones for sure, and arpeggios. You need to know these 3, but eventually you just try to play melodies that make sense harmonically to the music. That's what I would try to focus on, trying to get there eventually. Oh yes, Cliff Burton, Jason Newsted, yeah man, Robert Trujillo, I love Robert Trujillo. Wooten too, yeah. F melodic minor over G7. Simple logic. I think I have a lesson on this, but it's there in my book. Melodic minor systems for improvisation and composition. It's on my website, so check it out if you want to know a little more info about that. But if I have A flat melodic minor, I can move that melodic minor in minor thirds. You might think why? That's because I just was curious and I learned this from a friend, great bass player, Eli Afif, phenomenal bass player who actually hipped me to this stuff, and I started leaning towards it because I started liking that sound. So yeah, that's pretty much a simple answer to your question. What strings? I use DR Sunbeams A40 to 95. Pickups are stock. I have no idea what they are. Just whatever this bass came with. Right, last couple of questions before I wrap up. Played by tapping. Man, I used to do all that stuff much before. I haven't done anything. Let me see. Sheesh, I haven't played that stuff in ages. Am I talking about moving melodic minor up in thirds? Yes, minor thirds, yep, that's exactly it. I like to find symmetry in certain motions and just move it around, but not literally. If I say F minor to A flat, I'm not saying, not like that, but Yeah, the F melodic minor doesn't give you B, it gives you B flat, which is like a sharp 9, which is like the sound of the altered in a G7. Portrait of Tracy. Let me see if I remember this. Ah, shit. No. Shit. Man, I can't remember the last harmonic. To incorporate bigger jumps, you need to actually practice bigger jumps. So practice your scales like that. And then find melodic chunks in that and then expand on it. Thank you, David. Much appreciated. Moving melodic minor scale in minor thirds. Yes, F minor, A flat, B, D, which is your diminished chord. Diminished seventh chord, yeah. All right. Time for me to wrap this up. And I will see you all next week, roughly around the same time. All right. Peace and love to everyone who showed up. I will leave this on the channel. I'll create a separate playlist for this live streams if you want to watch back, or yeah. All right. Peace out.